Not using these 15 Serato DJ settings is costing you more than you think. So in this video, I'm going to show you the exact settings pro DJs use in Serato. First things first, let's start by heading into our Serato settings and opening up the audio tab. The first thing you'll see here is the USB buffer size option, which lets you play around with the latency between your equipment and Serato. This is responsible for how tight you want the response time between your computer and controller to be. By default, this setting is set to about this. Now you may think that the lower the latency, the better, right? Well, in this case, not so. You'll need to bear in mind that the lower you set your latency to be, the faster your computer will need to process the information coming in. In this case, unless you've got a very powerful and updated processor, lowering the latency to 1 or 2 milliseconds can cause skipping, lagging, and even glitching. And this is the opposite of what you'd want while you're performing for an audience. So for this crucial setting, I always recommend leaving it at the default 5 or 10 millisecond notch. Even in the world of high performance scratching, 5 milliseconds barely registers. Basically, anything lower than 10 milliseconds is pretty good. Because the reality is, even if the difference between 5 and 2 milliseconds seems tiny, the difference in pressure it puts on your computer's processor is astronomical. Next, let's move over to the DJ Preferences tab here on the left. Once here, you'll see this tab for auto gain. This is a very useful feature built into Serato DJ Pro that equalizes all your tracks' volumes once they've been analyzed. With so many different sources for your songs, like from BPM Supreme to CDs to even vinyl rips, it's more than likely that many of them were mastered at different volumes. And using auto gain fixes this issue by increasing or decreasing your song's volumes to a fixed decibel. Serato DJ Pro automatically sets this at 92 decibels, so I recommend keeping that setting as is. With Use Auto Gain enabled, you won't need to keep guessing if your track is playing too softly or loudly and consistently fiddling with the trim knobs. Next, over here on the left, we have another checkbox for Lock Playing Deck. This is another useful feature that prevents you from accidentally loading another track onto a deck that's already playing. Leaving this option unticked and accidentally loading a song onto deck 1 instead of deck 2 while a track is already playing there leads to this. However, if we leave this option ticked, Serato will automatically prevent the next song from being accidentally loaded onto the active deck. This is a very useful feature, especially when you're still getting over your beginner jitters. When I was starting out, I've loaded a track onto the active deck a couple of times, so don't make the same mistake that I and many DJs like me have made in the past. Next, you have the setting for enabling hot cues. Now you're probably wondering, can't we already enable hot cues? I've been doing that from the get-go. Well, this setting allows you to add hot cues from your controller while they're playing. If we untick this box, you'll see that pressing the unused hot cue buttons doesn't do anything. But if we enable this setting, we can add hot cues on the fly, which is very useful for adding new cues while you're in the middle of a set. Slightly below the Enable Hot Cue setting, we have the Track End Warning setting. This feature, once enabled, allows Serato to warn you if your current track is about to end by flashing the virtual deck. This occurs 20 seconds before the track itself ends. This feature is a great way to avoid having dead air during your sets and to ensure you're always on your toes with the music. Below that, there's a Show Beat Jump Control setting. Taking this enables a handy feature called Beat Jump on your main display. Without this, all we see are an extended range of beats for creating loops. But once we enable this feature, we'll see the Beat Jump section appear. And Beat Jump allows you to jump forward or backward a set number of beats on your track, which comes in useful if you either want to skip a section or if you miss your cue to play a track. Over here on the right, we see two circular settings called Start Time and Stop Time. This affects how quickly your track starts and stops. Now, if you've ever heard of vinyl record play, you'll know that they don't start or stop immediately. There's a slow build-up when played and a gradual slowdown when stopped. If we leave this, our tracks start and stop abruptly. However, To make a track sound more natural, you can raise your stop time to the 9 o'clock position. This becomes a built-in vinyl break effect, which you can use for multiple techniques, especially in open format DJing. As for the start time setting, I prefer having tracks start on the dime, so I recommend having this all the way down. Moving forward, we have the play from first cue point option. Normally, without this tick, Serato DJ will automatically play your song from the very beginning, and that's ensured by the play from start option right above it. Now, you may be wondering, what's the big difference? Well, instead of loading a song, looking for your hot cue and pressing a button to set it, Serato DJ does that all for you instead. Personally, I prefer my tracks to start from the first cue point for quicker mixing, especially when doing routines or more advanced techniques. Below that, we have the instant double setting. This setting allows Serato to mirror your current song on the opposite deck if you load it there. As you can see, this includes your position in the song as well as its BPM. This feature is particularly useful for scratch DJs. So if you're ever in a situation where your scratch track is on the opposite deck from your dominant or scratch hand, you can instantly have Serato mirror that track onto your dominant deck without losing any momentum. Likewise, this also comes in useful when you have faulty or glitchy equipment. Everyone will inevitably encounter DJ equipment whose decks no longer respond as well as they should. If one deck keeps giving you issues, simply double your playing track to the opposite working deck and carry on. In the long run, having instant doubles can be a lifesaver, especially for those who want quick transitions, perfect for scratch work and smooth sets. Below instant doubles, we have the option for turning off effects. This is a useful setting for those who use controllers which utilize Serato software-based effects. Turning this on will have Serato instantly turn off all the effects applied to a deck once a new song is loaded onto it. This prevents you from accidentally leaving an effect on one deck, especially when mixing back into it. Below that, we have another very important setting, Analyze Stems. Possibly the biggest game changer in recent DJing. Stems allow you to isolate your track's vocals, melody, bass, and drums. And this opens up multiple possibilities when DJing, from instant acapellas to on-the-fly mashups. However, all this doesn't come with a price. Stems processing takes a very heavy toll on your laptop's processor. Without the proper hardware, Serato may not work properly, or even worse, crash completely once you apply stems during a set. So before activating this option, please check your system and see if it reaches the requirements for stems. That being said, what are the advantages of this setting? Normally, Serato only analyzes a track for its stems once you activate stems mode while a song is playing. So if you activate stems while you're playing a track, there could be a slight delay in that stem isolation, depending on how fast your CPU can process the separation. This setting helps subvert that by having Serato analyze your tracks for stems the moment they're loaded onto a deck. So anytime you want to use stems, they're ready to fire. However, this setting will put a heavier load on your CPU, as you're no longer analyzing selected tracks, but all the tracks you're playing. Overall though, if you plan on using stems a lot and use them on the fly, then I would highly recommend keeping this setting on. There's also this setting which replaces one of your pad modes with stems. Many controllers came out before the advent of stems and simply don't have any buttons to accommodate them. And so this option allows you to replace one of your pad modes. For example, sampler with stems. So now when you click on this pad mode, you're instantly taken to your stem controls where you can mute your track's vocals, melody, bass, and drums. Every controller comes with a different set of options, so I recommend picking the mode you use the least to replace with stems.
Tonight I'ma let you be the captain. Tonight I'ma let you be a rider. Giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, babe. Tonight I'ma let it be fire. Tonight I'ma let you take me higher. Tonight, baby, we could get it on, yeah. We could get it on, yeah.
Moving over to the Library plus Display tab of your settings. So we have this setting for custom crate columns. Now, normally, when you arrange your songs in Serato, let's say by BPM, and move to a different crate, Serato will apply that setting to all your crates. However, what if you want a certain crate to be arranged by key and another to be arranged by BPM? This is where custom crate columns come in. If you arrange one crate by a certain parameter, that crate will always be arranged that way, even if you went for a different arrangement for other crates. So if you use a lot of crates and go between genres a lot, this setting should be useful for you. Next, we have this option to enable play count. This function allows Serato to show you exactly how many times you've played a track as a DJ. Enabling play count will become one of the most useful tools in keeping track of your library, especially in the long run. With it, you'll be able to tell which songs fit in your sets, which songs don't, and which songs you may have played too many times. Many DJs like myself use this function to clean up our libraries as well, with tracks never having gotten any airplay being removed and freeing up space for new music. Down here in the display section, we have another option for EQ colored waveforms. Having this feature enabled allows you to see how playing around with the EQs affects your music. With waveforms, Serato DJ lets you know how dominant a song's high, mid, and low frequencies are. Blue shows the highs, green the mids, and red shows the lows. Without EQ colored waveforms enabled, playing around with the EQ doesn't change anything with the waveforms. However, once EQ colored waveforms have been enabled, playing around with the EQ visually guides you as to how your adjustments have affected each frequency in a track. This becomes useful when adjusting tracks so you don't let frequencies clash, and when you're loading up new songs and forget to adjust your EQ back. And now you're set to DJ with Serato like a pro. But if you really want to level up your skills, check this video next.